everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video lecture, we will cover a new chapter of class 10th history, that is Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Frederick Soriot painting in 1848. It was a French artist who prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dreams of world made up of democratic and social republics, as he called them. In one of the prints, it shows the people of Europe and America, men and women of all ages and social classes, marching in a long train and offering homage to the Statue of Liberty as they pass by it. On earth, in the foreground of the image, life has lie the shattered remains of the symbols of absolutist institutions. And in Soriot's utopian vision, the people of the world are grouped as distant nations, identified through their flags and nationalism costumes. Then what is absolutist? A government or system of rule that has no restraints on the power exercised. In history, the term refers to the form of monarchical governments that was centralized, militarized and repressive. Utopian, a vision of a society that is so ideal that it is unlikely to exist. France, identifiably by the revolutionary tricolor, has just reached the statue. The flag they carry, an expression of liberal hopes in 1848 to unify the numerous German-speaking participants. From the heavens above, Christ, saints and angels gaze upon the scene. They have been used by the artist to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. During 19th century, nationalism emerged as the force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and mental world of Europe. End result is the origin of nation-state. Elements of nation-states were majority of its citizens and not only its rulers shared history and sense of common identity. First clear expression of nationalism came up with French Revolution in 1789. French was a full-fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of an absolute monarch. Then steps taken by French revolutionary ideas of La Patrie and Le Citoyen, new French flag. Then Estates General was elected and renamed as National Assembly. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished. New hymns composed and oaths taken. Then it was the mission and the destiny of the French nation to liberate the people of Europe from despotism. In other words, to help other people of Europe to become nations. Then establishments of Jacobin Club paved way for French armies that carried the idea of nationalism and moved to Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and Italy. Then Napoleon Bonaparte, he was a military leader. Due to political vacuum, Napoleon came into the picture. With his introduction, democracy was destroyed in France. Reaction to Napoleon in Europe in the areas conquered. The reactions of the local population to the French rule were mixed. Initially, French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty in certain cities like Brussels, Holland, etc. That initial enthusiasm later turned hostile due to increased taxation, censorship and forced conscription. All seemed to outweigh the advantages of administrative changes. Then Napoleon Code or Civil Code of 1804 established equality before law and took away all privileges based on birth. Then freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. Guilds restrictions were removed, standardized weights and measures. Then the making of nationalism in Europe, mid-18th century, known nations states in Europe were there. In these kingdoms lived different people with different cultures and identity. Then in Hungary, half of the population spoke Magyar, with the other half spoke with the dialects. Then aristocrats, socially and politically powerful, united by common way of life, owned estates and townhouses, spoke French, and families often connected by the way of marriages. Peasants were comprised majority population. Western Europe, majority land formed by tenants and small farm owners. Eastern and Central Europe, serfs cultivated land. Emergence of new middle class, second half of the 18th century, Western and parts of Central Europe, growth of industrial production and trade led to growth of town and emergence of commercial classes. And industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century, but in France and parts of the German state, its occurrence only during the 19th century. Then the new social class, commercial class, working class or middle class advocated idea of national unity against aristocratic privilege. They later became force of a lot of revolution in Europe against monarchy. Then what did liberal nationalism stand for? Liberalism idea of nations unity in early 19th century Europe were closely allied to the ideology of liberalism, derived from Latin word liber, which is meant to free and stood for equality before law. Political liberalism, government by consent, individuality of private property, end of autocracy and of clerical privileges, and no voting rights for those without property. Then economic liberalism stood for freedom of markets, abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Then such conditions were viewed as obstacles to economic exchanges and growth by new commercial classes. Then sovereign custom union. It was initiated by Prussia in 1834 and it abolished tariff barriers, reduced the number of currencies from 30 to 2, promoted a network of railway to promote mobility. There are new conservatism after 1815. Conservatives, people who believed in traditional institutions of state and society, with changes initiated to Napoleon. They realized modern army and efficient bureaucracy, a dynamic economy, the abolition of feudalism and serfdom could strengthen the autocratic monarchies of Europe. The Battle of Waterloo in 1815, it was Napoleon defeat by conservatives. And then Treaty of Vienna, it was held where? In Vienna, when 1815, and its members were Britain, Austria, Russia and Prussia, who hosted Australian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Then why? To bring back conservatism, that is to restore monarchy in Europe after Napoleon's defeat. Then changes brought by treaty. The Bourbon dynasty was restored. France lost the territories were divided. Prussia was given territory on western frontiers, but the German confederations of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon was left untouched. And conservative regimes set up in 1815 were autocratic, did not tolerate criticism and dissent. And this motivated liberal nationalists to fight for freedom of press. Revolutionaries who belonged to liberal nationalists who belonged to educated middle class elite. Then secret societies were formed due to the fear of repression. Then their members were liberal nationalists began to operate underground, and objectives were to commitment to oppose monarchical form. Then Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary born in Genoa. It was a member of secret society in Carbonari, found two societies, Young Italy and Marcellus, and Young Europe in Bern. Then it helped in unification alone could be on the basis of Italian liberty. Then the Age of Revolutions 1830 to 1848, revolution was led by two groups in Europe, the conservative and the liberalism and nationalists. In furtherance of their motive, three revolutions occurred: July, Belgian and Greece Revolution. The Age of Revolution 1830 to 1848, first Upwell, France, July 18, established constitutional monarchy. Louis Philippe was its head. Brussels, Belgium broke away from the United Kingdom. Then the Greece War of Independence. Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. Then the growth of revolutionary nationalism in Europe sparked off a struggle of freedom. The nationalists in Greece got supported from other Greeks. Poets and artists lauded Greece as the cradle of European civilization. And then the English poet Lord Byron organized funds and later went to fight in the war, where he died of fever. And finally, the Treaty of Constantinople of 1832 recognized Greece as an independent nation. The Romantic imagination and national feeling. Romanticism is a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiments through arts, poetry, stories, and music. People who contribute it are called as romantic artists. They shared common heritage, common culture, mystical feeling. They criticized glorifications of reasons and science. Then Johann Gottfried Herder, he was a German philosopher, gave two concerts, Das Volk and Volkslied. Then how language played an important role. Poland was partitioned by great powers, and Karol Kupinski celebrated national struggle through operas and music, turning folk dance and Polonaise and mazurka into national symbol. The use of Polish came to be seen as a symbol of struggle against Russian dominance. Then the Massacre Archaeos Una Delacroix's in 1824. The French painter Delacroix was one of the most important French romantic painters. This huge painting depicts an incident in which 20,000 Greeks were said to have been killed by Turks on the island of Chios. By dramatizing the incident, focusing on the suffering of women and children, and using vivid colors, he sought to appeal to the emotions of spectators and create sympathy for the Greeks. Then hunger, hardship, and population revolt. 1830s were years of great economic hardship in Europe. First half of the 19th century saw an enormous increase in population. In most of the country, there were more seekers of job than employment. Population from rural area migrated to cities. Small producers in town were often faced with tough competition. This was especially so in textile production. Peasants struggled under the burden of feudal dues and obligation. Then Louis Philippe was forced to flee. The Silesian Revolt is not of your chapter, so leave it. In 1848, the revelation of the liberals. Who were liberals? Liberals comprised educated middle-class people who led the revolution in Europe. Then, when did the revolution start? Parallel to the revolts of peasants and workers in Europe in 1848. What was the revolt started for? Constitution, freedom of press and freedom of association, abolition of monarchy, and achieve republic based on universal male suffrage. In Germany's case, middle class people came together in city of Frankfurt and voted for all German National Assembly. On 18th May 831, elected representative marched to Frankfurt Parliament, convened in the Church of St. Paul, drafted constitution, then offered the crown to Frederick William IV, King of Prussia, but he rejected the proposal and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. The parliament consequently lost the middle class support. Then Frankfurt Parliament in the Church of St. Paul. Then women's participation, formed their own political association, founded newspapers, and taken part in political meetings and demonstrations. Steps to avoid another revolt. The autocratic monarchies of Central and Eastern Europe began to introduce the changes. Serfdom and bonded labor were abolished. Then the making of Germany and Italy. The nationalism in Europe moved away from association with democracy and revolution. Nationalist sentiments were often mobilized by conservatives. This can be observed in the present process by which Germany and Italy came to unified as nation states. Then Prussia took on the leadership of the movement of national unification. Then unification was done by conservative. Prussian chief minister Otto von Bismarck was architect of the process of unification of Germany. Prussia started a movement for nationalism unification under Otto von Bismarck. 3 wars over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France ended in Prussian victory and completed the process of unification. Then the new state places a strong emphasis on modernizing the currency, banking, legal, and judicial systems in Germany. Then Italy unified. Italy was divided into 7 states. Only Sardinia, Piedmont was ruled by Italian princely state. North was under Austrian Habsburg. Central was ruled by Pope. And southern regions were dominated by Bourbon kings of Spain. And Giuseppe Mazzini sought to put together a clear program for unitary Italian Republic, formed a secret society called Young Italy, and then after his failure, responsibility fell on Victor Emmanuel II. In the eyes of ruling elites of this region, the unified Italy offered them the possibility of economic development. Then Chief Minister Cavour led the movement to unify the region of Italy. He entered into an alliance with France and succeeded in defeating Austrian forces in 1859. Cavour was helped by a local leader known as Giuseppe Garibaldi and his army of peasants that is called Red Shirt. Then Giuseppe Garibaldi in 1833, he met Mazzini and joined the Young Italy movement. He participated in Republican uprising in Piedmont in 1834. In 1860, he led the famous expedition to South Italy and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies with his Red Shirt army. In 1860, the army under Garibaldi marched to the South Italy and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. They succeeded in winning the support of the local peasants in order to drive out Spanish rulers. Then in 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was finally proclaimed as the king of United Italy. And the strange case of Britain. Nation state formation was not sudden but a long drawn process. Prior to 18th century, there were ethnic groups like English, Welsh, Scot, Irish. English Parliament seized power monarchy in 1688. Act of Union between England and Scotland have resulted in the formation of United Kingdom of Great Britain. British Parliament was dominated by English members. And then they were forbidden to speak Gaelic language of a national. They were forbidden to wear national dress of Scotland. Incorporation of Ireland was a country deeply divided between Catholics and Protestants. English helped the Protestants of Ireland to establish their dominance, and Catholics revolted against British dominance, whose dominance was suppressed. Revolt led to Wolfton, and his United Irishmen for Catholics failed, and Ireland was forcibly incorporated to United Kingdom. And visualizing the nation, allegory. In 18th and 19th century, artists personified nations. They represent a country as if it were a person. This is called allegory. For example, French revolutionary artists used the female allegory to portray ideas such as liberty, justice, and republic. When an abstract idea, for instance, greed, envy, and etc., is expressed through a person or thing, an allegorical story has two meanings: one literal and one symbolic. Franz Marianne, popular Christian name, underlying idea of people's nation characterized on from liberty and republic. Statue of Marianne were erected in public squares to remind the public of the national symbols of unity, to persuade them to identify it. Germany, Germania become the allegory. She wears a crown of oak leaves and stands for heroism. First time used by liberals in Frankfurt Parliament. The nationalism and imperialism. Then these are the NCERT question. Go through it. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you liked it and understood it well. Don't forget to like, share, comment my videos, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.